What are you on?
I'm on top of a table.
Oh, I thought you're on a drug.
No, I'm not. That would probably be helpful if I was. Let me see here.
If you were gonna spiral on any drug into oblivion, which drug would it be?
I don't need drugs to do that.
Me neither.
There you go. Alright, so where is... So hi to anybody that's going to watch this later after it's uploaded or whatever. Because nobody's technically on watching anything right now. Because I am here to kill time and chill. And look at Reddit. Because why not?
Yeah.
Yay, Reddit.
Yeah, Reddit. You said no one ever.
We did it, guys. We saved the world through facts and logic.
Oh no. Facts and logic. Not that stuff.
I mean, it was the up in the air when I was little. I was either gonna become a virgin Reddit mod or any other type of person.
Or any other type of person. Those are your options.
Yeah.
In life. Don't become a Reddit mod.
Unfortunately, my virginity was taken, so now I cannot be a Reddit mod anymore.
Oh, damn. It's unfortunate.
And I'm sorry.
To like submit scans of your dick to reply.
Yeah, Uncle got a little too close that night.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think like getting molested doesn't count as sincere virginity.
Yeah,
Yes, it does. Yeah, it do.
Especially if something went in your butt.
Exactly. It's too bad that there isn't like a virginity
It's
test
not a
for
healthy
boys.
way for that to have occurred, and I wish it upon no one, but it's definitely a way.
I think we can give everyone a pass.
Wait, what?
Never mind.
Okay. Let me see here. Is everything up? Yes, everything is up. I just posted it on Discord, and nobody's probably gonna get on.
Everything up?
It's all up. Yeah, it's all up. Half chud, baby.
All right.
Can you? Okay. Let me see. I'm gonna go to newest.
I'm always soft.
What is this? This is weird. Okay. Sinai Cog Fizz Lab posted something 2 hours ago.
What do they post?
Paid research volunteers needed. Upper East Side, New York City. Paid research volunteers needed. If you are between the ages of 18 and 45 and have supernatural experiences, severe social anxiety, trouble staying organized, difficulty trusting people, or few close relationships, have a sixth sense such as telepathy, or believing that some events are not coincidences, but rather signs about your future, you may be eligible for this research study. What?
Is this like gather up all the cluster A's and execute them or something?
Yeah, study requirements. Multiple visits over the span of 18 months. MRI scans. Neurocognitive assessment. Gabriel, did you set this up?
Excuse me?
Did you set this up?
What?
This sounds like a plan you would have. As a participant, you will receive, upon completion of the study, you can make up to $775. I like when they say up to. It could also be $5.
Yeah, it could be $1.
Well, it's like if you do 4 days, but it's 7 days, and they give you that one.
Yeah, but they're not telling you how much you're making per session, so it could be anything between 1 and.
Yeah, you could also be making only $775 at 18 months worth of sessions.
Yeah.
I've never done a medical study, but they seem like a dope thing to do if you can find one that's not going to like.
Well, there you go. Try this one out. Try this one out. Do you have supernatural experiences, Gabriel?
No.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, he does. And then, do you have a sixth sense such as telepathy?
Nah.
Yeah, you do.
I don't know. He does? Okay. I
No,
remember
he
that.
doesn't. No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
He has the last one, but not that one.
I don't have either of them.
Supernatural experiences? Yeah.
He has supernatural experiences.
Yeah. I don't think Gabriel has severe social anxiety. Do you, Gabriel?
No.
Yeah, see?
I have severe social anxiety.
Maybe you should do this study. Let me see here.
Yeah, I probably should.
It says, for further information about the study and your eligibility, please contact that person. And that person, well, they posted it, so I'm not doxing anyone. But apparently they're offering a study up, guys.
Mm.
The first comment is, I think you meant to post this in schizotypal.
Well, there's some overlap.
Yeah, no, for sure. You'll probably find more of that there, though.
True.
On r/schizotypal. Alright. That's so funny, man. This is just gonna be some not so good thing. I'd stay away myself, but whatever.
I wonder how many schizoids are just introverted schizotypals and how many schizoids are just people that don't have social lives and got accidentally diagnosed.
No, I don't think that's that many.
Awesome.
The second one, no. The first one, likely. The first one, definitely likely. Schizotypals that got misdiagnosed as schizoids.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of that. The second one, nah, man. Most
No, but
psychs
like
aren't gonna get an
antisocial.
intro. No, yeah, I know, but a semi-antisocial person that's introverted is not gonna be fucking diagnosed as schizoid, because there's certain requirements about how you experience things and what you say about them and those experiences and lack thereof. Like, because an introverted person is not gonna be like, I can't connect to other human beings in any significant way. I feel like, no, they're not gonna fucking have these. I have no real sense of identity that I can latch onto. Like, that kind of stuff is not that you're not gonna hear that coming out of a fucking just some introvert.
Well, I mean, introverted is a big abstract concept anyway.
You know what I'm saying, though.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Someone that's just like likes to be alone a lot is not gonna fucking be dealing with anhedonia. Unless they're depressed too, then maybe they will be.
But that's what I mean, like, because like not all people who do the diagnostics are super competent. So
there's always going to be a misdiagnosis to a point.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a significant amount. I would say that's a very small percentile, in my estimation. But the other ones, schizotypals being misdiagnosed, I can see that happening, especially if it's a schizoid that doesn't want to be completely open about their internal experiences being as vivid as they might actually be, or they might hide some of their positive symptoms from others.
I think there's like bleed through too. Like, like there's schizoids who have some characteristics, and then if they went in to be diagnosed at a certain point in their life, they would have been diagnosed schizotypal, but because they didn't come in at that point, they didn't get it. You know what I mean? Like, I have some traits of schizotypal and some traits of schizoid at different times.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But then I think the point I was making was that then there's another group of people who don't seem to have any of those weird abstract traits at all, but they still say that they're schizoid, right?
Yes. No. Actually, no. I don't know. Hold on. I'm trying to think. Like, I don't think I've met a single schizoid so far that's been diagnosed that doesn't have the issues with, like, over abstraction.
Well, then maybe then they're doing a good job at diagnosing, and maybe the
well, you know what's interesting is just like, I always like to bring this up. It had been Greenberg or whatever that had said it, that schizoids are very good at self-diagnosing.
Oh yeah, I diagnose myself.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they're usually really good at self-diagnosing. So I would assume that a lot of schizoids are probably people that came across it at some point or another, and they decided, oh, this might be it, and then they, tell their psychs or whatever, and then the psych comes to the conclusion that they're correct in their assertion. Or a lot of schizoids, I've discovered a lot of schizoids like this think that Oh, I have it, and then they go see somebody.
That's what happened to me. I was like, hey, I have it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's just. I think that's what usually happens in most cases. Oh, Gabriel left. Bye, Gabriel.
Bye, Gabe.
I think in most cases that is usually the situation that they go in themselves and they go, "Hey, I think I have this thing. Can you verify?" And then they, do sessions with them and then go, "Okay, yeah, sounds about right." And then it's like, "Oh, okay," because that's kind of what happened to me. Like I went to see my psych and I was like, I think this might be it. And they're like, okay, well, let's just go through the motions. And I'm like, all right. And then we did. And I was like 100% honest and open. And then they were like, yeah, that makes sense. That all connects, that all clicks, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah. And there we go.
So my story is like really relevant to this particular community because I thought I was schizoid for a while. And then I was really lonely. And so I joined the schizoid community here.
Yeah.
And then I told my psych that I joined the community, and I was like, "Hey, I finally found people that are similar enough to me so that I can talk to them without like being instantly banned from the space."
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Oh, cool. Who are they?" And I was like, "Oh, schizoids." And he was like, "Oh," and then he sent me an article. He just immediately sent me an article all about schizoid personality. And I read through it, and I was like, "Oh shit!" And then I like was clipping stuff from it and sending it, and he was like, "Yeah, that fits." That fits.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they put me on the MDMA clinical trial a long time ago, like a few years ago, he brought in another psychologist, and there was something about her that was like different. It was almost like she was like a mirror. Like there was something like weird. I don't know. It's impossible to describe. But I knew there was something about her, and it turns out she self-identifies as a schizoid, and it's like we kind of recognize each other instantly.
Interesting. Yeah, I often wonder. That actually brings up a really interesting idea too. Is I wonder how that would work, like how it would be, because like most of the time when we imagine meeting people in person. We kind of imagine this discomfort, all the same discomforts, feelings of alienation and isolation that we perceive and connect to other sorts of social encounters and stuff. And I kind of wonder, like, what if it would be different if it's somebody that's schizoid, like, and then you meet them in person, and then you would actually not feel that way because neither person standing in front of the other has any of the expectations or misgivings that the average person would about them and their experiences.
That's kind of how it felt with that woman when I was super high on MDMA. Like we kind of locked eyes, and like she was talking about archetypes. And this was years ago before I even knew what archetypes were. And like we just didn't stop talking through the whole process, and never at one point it's like how it is here. It's like you can say anything and you're not concerned about being misunderstood or misinterpreted or
in
having
some
your
negatively emotional fashion. Yeah,
exactly.
Like where it's going to be like, what are you saying about me? What are you saying about this? What kind of, like, the people usually on the server, people don't jump to conclusions or assumptions that about what you're trying to say. They either try to figure it, if they don't understand what you're saying, they ask questions to try to determine what it is you're trying to say, or they can kind of get it pretty quickly. Misunderstandings don't usually turn into like big, weird, awkward situations like they do in real life.
Yeah, that's how it was in the in-person interaction. It's really hard to describe because again, I was altered as well, but it was really like the feeling of talking to a neurotypical and like there's some barrier in the way and like there's extra work that you're having to do, and it just feels off, right? When that's not there, it's weird to say. It's almost like you're less human and more animal. Like it's just you're automatically communicating, and you're not having to think that much about what you're saying.
Well, I don't know about it being more animal, but I think the word might be looking for, it's more intuitive.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's less hyper aware.
Yeah,
Right?
it's more
Like
intuitive. Like you're not
it's more
conscious.
unconscious.
Yeah, it's more
Yeah,
unconscious. Yeah, and that's how probably most people communicate in general.
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And so when you're communicating with another schizoid, it's a lot easier. You don't have to actually worry too much about the many concerns that many schizoids are apprehensive about, because in their search for connection and meaning and such, they oftentimes study human behavior to the point where all they do is discover there's a bunch of stuff that doesn't make sense to them, or they don't want to interact with about human behavior. That's fairly normal, or not difficult for the average person maybe to deal with or approach.
I was thinking about like an example, because I went like that date that I went on with that girl that like I'm not going on a date with her anymore. But like there's an example of like I think hyper abstraction and communication barrier.
Mm-hmm.
So like when we talk, the concrete words that are coming out of your mouth, if that or you're on text, if someone were to take those out of the context in which they were being said, it would look like you were accusing me of something, right? Like, but if you look at it inside of the context, based on the past things that were said and the emotional state at the time, within that context, abstracted, I understand what you mean. And so when I told that girl, when I was talking about, I'm trying to remember exactly what I said. I made a joke about misery loves company. And what that meant in the context of the conversation was that if she feels bad that I'm not around, then that's good, because it means she wants to be around me. But she wasn't able to abstract from the context, so she just took the direct meaning of misery loves company, of how
which
it's usually used.
of like, oh, miserable people like being around each other.
Right, or more, even more so. It's like when the way people use that, they go, "Oh, that other person is making me miserable on purpose, and I'm mad at them." Misery loves company.
That's like the least charitable.
Right. She
interpretation.
took the least charitable interpretation automatically.
Oh, okay. Because the one I would generally go to is miserable people enjoy each other's company because they find solace in each other's suffering.
No, again, you're abstracting way too much. The way that that's usually used is the least charitable interpretation.
Really?
Yeah, at least I think so.
I always thought it was the way I just said it. But
yeah.
But it's funny because like when I think you had mentioned this story to me, and when you said that, and then you told, like, that's where my mind initially went. But then when you said that you were coming from a different place, my mind automatically went to what you described.
Well, that's exactly the point. So because our minds automatically go there based on the context, because we can hold hyper abstractions, we're not so concerned about being misunderstood. So we can just talk and not have to worry. Whereas in a conversation with someone like that, I have to be constantly concerned, like which meaning of the word are they interpreting, right?
Mm-hmm.
What level of abstraction are they at?
Yeah, and it's really difficult to ascertain because they don't hold multiples generally at the same time, and because of that reason, the communication becomes like very difficult, to say the least.
Yeah, it's like so difficult. It almost is impossible. It's like draining and it's sad.
That's interesting. I like that.
That's why I've been so depressed. It's just like that dynamic.
Yeah, but why? But that's what's interesting. Like, to me, like, I'm just like, why would it depress you? I mean, look, actually, I get it. Like, I would go through similar bouts of depression. Probably when I was younger, probably like your age. You said you're in your 20s, right?
Yeah, I'm 23.
Yeah, I would go through similar bouts of depression in my 20s because, like, I would try to. At one point in my life, I had actually moved and lived in Arizona, and I was living with roommates and stuff, and I would try to, like, you know, they would want to party and do things and blah blah blah, and they would tell me stories about themselves and they'd want me to share and everything else. But like in the context of all that, like I always felt like there was a barrier. It always felt like I couldn't. There was something I couldn't communicate to them, or I always had to like explain myself because otherwise, like the assumptions that were made were incorrect, or it would cause further problems or destabilization in the quote unquote friendships. And it would just be too much to try to navigate, too much to manage, and of course isolation is just easier than all the stress that comes with all that. But
Also,
yeah,
people have no patience for explanations.
yeah, a lot of people don't really have patience
Yeah,
for
it's like,
explanation.
yeah, it happens to me all the time. It'll be like, I'll explicitly state, like, okay, so here, this situation is going to happen, so I'm just going to prepare you for it because it's going to happen. And they're like,
This
okay.
is a
And then
distinct
the situation
possibility.
happens, and then they go, what the fuck? And I'm like, well, yeah, I told you that was going to happen. But they don't listen, so it
No,
doesn't
they don't
matter.
like I told you so's. They don't like I told you so's. I usually avoid them to begin with, but people don't even like I told you so's before they even like
Like
the thing
warning them.
happens. Like warnings. They don't even like being
Yeah.
warned half the time. Like I guess the warning people of things seems to upset a lot of people because they run under the assumption that you're saying something about them and their faults and flaws in regard to whatever it is you're warning them about. Like you're trying to say, "Oh, you're so dumb. This is going to happen to you," or "You're so this," or "You're so that," or "You're so naive," or "You're so."
Yeah.
And all you're trying to actually do is just warn them because you prefer if they didn't undergo such a event, because then if it's somebody that is within your circle of people that speak to you, then you have to deal with pretending that you feel bad for them creating the very situation you warned them about. So,
I
yeah.
wonder, like, is the metacognition possibly partially the result of having these different ways of communicating to begin with, right? Like, so let's say that you're born into a culture, a family, an environment where everybody's sort of at the same level of abstraction most of the time, and so you have that like mirror and like that unconscious communication where you don't have to think that much about what you're saying, because there's just certain core value structure that's shared from the bottom up, and it never has to be questioned. And because it never has to be questioned, well, you don't get good at questioning it, and so you don't get good at being metacognitive. So then, but if you were born in the same situation but you were at a different level of abstraction, it would actually be required for you to be able to like survive, to start to try to figure out how exactly it is that you perceive things differently than other people, and then you're projecting goal structure and shifting it around, and so then you have this person who's good at metacognition and the person who's not.
I'm sure that's a lot of the case. I mean, if you grow up in an environment in which there's a lot of conflict and there's a lot of misgiving, misunderstandings, constant miscommunication in your environment, because of, like, say, factors such as people having different perceptions of experiences and occurrences, or maybe growing up in an environment full of people with that might have PDs of various kinds, then you're gonna develop such a skill in your need to survive an environment that requires it.
I mean, I certainly had to in my family environment.
Exactly. So, I mean, it kind of you have to kind of separate yourself from your immediate kind of cognition and start trying to determine what other people's are. You start trying to mind read almost, even if you're not actually doing it. And then you make assertions about other people's behavior and such and so forth. And that can lead to some detrimental maladaptive stuff too. But it could also develop a skill that maybe a lot of people don't fully develop. because they don't need to. There was never any situation until maybe they get much older in which they need this kind of metacognition.
Well, that's interesting because like that leaves the open question. Let's say you're super concretizer, you're really concrete, and but you're having these same problems because, like, let's say that you pick up sensations from the environment that other people don't, like actual, like you just feel more because you're more sensitive.
Yeah.
And so that causes this sort of difference in experience and this barrier. I guess for some people they assume that abstraction and metacognition are tied together. I don't know if that's necessarily true. Like maybe it's the case that people who are super concrete, when they apply their metacognition, they just apply concrete metacognition. So they project goal structures that they have. Maybe these are two separate
entirely separate things, yeah.
Systems, right? Rather than necessarily linked together, right? So like if you're a super concretizer and you have the capacity for metacognition, then the goal structure that you project will then be concrete goal structure. And it'll be really difficult for you, well, impossible for you to project an abstract goal structure because you don't have one, right?
Yeah, or you've never attempted to build one.
Right. Because I mean, we only really have access to our own mental faculties. Like when we're using metacognition, it's not like we're actually reaching out and like linking up with another person. We're only using the stuff that we've developed, right? It's like
that we know of. That we know of.
Yeah, that we know of, like the parts of ourselves that have been activated, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, and so you can think of some people having like a limited tool set. It's like, okay, here's a list of like masks that I could put on this. Is it this one? Is it this one? Well, it's actually one that you don't have, but since you don't have it, you're just going to go with the next best one, right?
You build artifices, like structures, representations of behavioral patterns that you've seen before, read about, or experienced to some degree, and then you start applying them to the individuals around you, in place of your any kind of intuitive ability to connect to others.
Oh, that's interesting.
So,
okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Talk about that more. Talk about that more.
Well, what I'm thinking is like, okay, so like I've explained to you in the past that I often experience other people like their concepts instead of people, how people experience people. So in that sense,
what's
it's
the
like
difference? That's confusing me. Let's dive into that.
Like,
what's the difference between perceiving a concept and a person?
Okay, so I think that a lot of human beings, and like I said, I'm not entirely sure, a lot of neurotypical people, or not even neurotypical people, just people that don't have the same issues as a lot of cluster A's would, is that they can emotionally empathize with the people around them and then kind of connect themselves on an emotional scale to that other person's experiences, right? But a lot of the schizoid does instead is they see behavioral patterns. They do the normal brain pattern recognition thing, and they go, okay, these are the patterns of these sort of peoples, and these are usually the events that transpire when those patterns emerge, right? And you don't necessarily do this consciously. You can be doing this unconsciously as well. And you start applying not just masks to yourself, but masks on others. That makes sense to you. Because go ahead.
I guess I'm just because like behavior and language, like those are the tools we have to work with. So I'm trying to figure out what makes it different, right? Because so the normative interacts with behavior and language, and the schizoid interacts with behavior and language, and they collect information and like fixed action patterns of behavior and language, and they chain those together into more complex systems. They both do that.
Yeah.
The question is, what's the difference between the two?
I think the difference is, and it's difficult for me to kind of explain in any kind of easy way, but the difference I feel is, if I can use an example, is the way a psychiatrist or psychologist specifically, or even a therapist of any kind, looks at a client, and the way somebody looks at a friend.
Mm,
And
yeah.
we see the way we perceive most people around us are the same way as a psych looks at a client.
Okay, well, let's think about that then. So,
It
in
is kind
order
of because
for
that's a
yeah,
skill they learn
in order to
to be
treat yeah,
clinical, about it.
in order to treat the client successfully, a big part of it is being skeptical of your own assumptions, right? Because
Correct.
when you're relating to a friend, it's like you have an automatic pattern of behavior and goal structure and a bunch
Yeah.
of fixed action patterns, and you just let them run and you don't think about it too much. But if you're doing that with a patient, well, then you're just reacting to them as if they're an amalgamation of the people that you've already known, and they probably aren't, right?
Yeah.
Like, right? So
They're definitely
part
not.
of developing clinical expertise is being able to go, okay, here's my assumption or here's my automatic reaction to
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing, and then put that in a box, which is metacognition, right? So you're putting your own thought into a box and analyzing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this ties back to the whole like mismatched levels of abstraction. If you're in enough situations in which your perceptions of how another person is thinking and their perceptions of how you're thinking are at odds or mismatched in a
Yeah.
way that produces discomfort, right? Eventually, you're going to automatically question the validity and automatically metacognate on all of your ideas about how other people work all the time.
Yes.
That's going to be your automatic reaction. And then that's going to create actual mental distance in the sense that it's taking more energy and more activity to interact than another person
Thus the
would.
exhaustion.
It's the exhaustion, right? Your prefrontal cortex is going crazy, right? Like reinterpreting and interpreting and metacognating, whereas someone else is
But
just
a
asleep.
lot of the time it's not. This is the issue too. Is you're doing all these things. You're putting in this extra effort in an attempt to navigate the situation, so that you can return to being comfortable after it.
Right.
And so one thing that somebody else, even if another individual is putting in that kind of effort, they're usually receiving some kind of reward in return from that social situation, or
Mm-hmm.
from the the social rewards that they gain from succeeding in such an effort with other human beings in
Oh,
that sort of
I see
setting.
what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Are you saying that there's a substantial difference between avoiding discomfort and pursuing reward?
Correct.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And
That's a big factor, and
so
that's a big
I think
yeah.
in most social situations, the energy expenditure is in pursuing reward, even if it's not intentional. Like they're pursuing either affection, friendship, status,
Mm-hmm.
something. All these things that the
Yeah.
schizoid has difficulties with, or isn't interested in a lot of
Well,
ways.
I think I think it's chicken and the egg. This is really interesting because, like, so all the things we've been discussing might produce a situation where, for the normative, they're starting at a position of no association, right? And then they're working towards a positive association. Whereas the schizoid is having to work their way out of a negative situation into nothing from early. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's very abstract, but
No, yeah, I
I
get
think
it. Something to ponder. But yeah, I'm trying to connect that to what I said regarding the construct creation, because like that's what's interesting too, is that like if you're creating, if you're making these artifices of what other people are in order to navigate them, then you're not really, even if you were interested in receiving the rewards, um, you might not even be able to, considering all you're interacting with is an artifice.
well, I mean, I don't. I think that I don't know if there's a distinction between beyond complexity in terms of like the things that we're doing is fake and the ones that normative uses are real. I don't think either of them are real or fake, right? I think it's just ours are more complex necessarily based on what we've been what we've been
That
talking
might be
about.
the case. I feel like there's an element. Maybe you're right, but I'm not entirely sure because I feel like there's an element. There's an element there that's missing. Maybe you start getting into metaphysics at that point.
Well, I mean, I think abstraction just covers it in terms of like having to translate your, having to try. Okay, this is hard to say, but like, there's a certain emotional sensation going on in terms of, okay, where I am in terms of how competent I am in terms of other people and how I'm relating to you. Like, are you a loved one or an object or a threat or whatever, and all of those and things like that. And we're trying to convey that emotional sense to other people through our language to figure out what the world looks like or is made of.
Yeah,
that's how we
but
do it.
Our language is
And
different.
right, well, our perceptions are different, and that causes our language to be different. And then we're having to do extra work to try to communicate what's happening for us to get any of our needs met. And then that's creating the situation where we're having to work out of a deficit rather than from nothing to a.
Well, another difficulty too is that if you also have a disconnection from the self, you don't even know what your needs are.
Oh, talk about that more.
So, a lot of schizoids, including myself, we don't have because we didn't develop a sense of, I guess it would be an identity that could interact with the external world in any good capacity, because of the social and emotional disconnect. And a lot of a person's identity or sense of self, if you're talking about the neurotypical person, stems from those connections. And so a lot of the needs that need to be met develop, the needs associated to the sense of self develop from those interactions and ability to connect and navigate those places more intuitively. And if you're a schizoid, you lack this fully constructed sense of self, at least in the conventional regard, as it's, as it being connected to more social kind of, or human social sort of interactions. You end up like with a situation where you don't know what needs even need to be met, because or the needs that you need being met can't be accomplished in those conventional settings. Like that.
There's a parallel here that's interesting. I think this might be one of the reasons why autism and schizoid are confused or misdiagnosed for each other or not recognized when they're comorbid or something like that. In that, the result of this disconnect or this distance, this difficulty in communication and translation between people within family groups, it causes the individual who's in the out group to, because they have to do so much extra work to translate, it means that they have less energy and time to pick up the fixed action patterns which they would need to meet their needs. And so they have gaps or holes in their need meeting procedures, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then other people look at that and they go, oh, this person has a developmental disorder, right? And it's like, well, no, they don't, right? They just grew up in an environment where they couldn't communicate with other people because they were very different. And as a result of that, they didn't pick up many of the things that they needed to because it was just more difficult to communicate, right? But then the underlying cause of that difference can be completely diametrically opposed, right? Like you can be having, super abstract mystical experiences that you can't really communicate because no one else is sharing them and there's no framework of language to interpret them. And so you feel misunderstood, and there's all more complicated stuff in terms of the actual language moment to moment. And then diametrically opposed to that, you could have a person who, each step they take, it's like pins and needles because the texture of the carpet is wrong, right? And so the underlying neurobiology is very different, but the result is very similar in that this bottom-up difference in processing is producing an impossibility of communication, which is requiring extra work to translate, which is making all social interaction more difficult, which is causing these gaps to form in the way that we meet our needs, right? Mm-hmm. And so then when a clinician looks at this at the end result, they go, oh, is this autism or is this schizoid? I can't tell, right?
you would really have had to go all the way back to the beginning to see like what was initially causing, and you can only sort of infer based on the traits which are still around, like what was happening during early childhood, which was you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just stay quiet a lot because I like to, like, I feel like things are shifting around like gears, but I can't really control them. That's my thinking. It's weird. Like I can't vocalize all the thinking that I'm doing.
Same.
Like, well, you seem to be able to do a better job than I can when it comes to
I don't know. I just talk.
Yeah, I know, like a machine gun. But it's just like I'm going, okay. I just don't know what more to add necessarily from where you went there. That wouldn't be just a repetition of what I already regurgitated. Like what's the next step though? Like what's the practical step that can be taken as far as treatment goes to compensate for that?
I mean, having a set of heuristics from the start where you can identify like who someone is before, like from like a set of key, like having slots that are ready to be filled by information, so think it like this. So if you take a person and you plop them down in a forest with some other people, but they've never been in a forest before and they're not hunter-gatherers, like you just plop them down there, they're probably going to die because they don't have cultural slots ready to take in and direct the course of their behavior. So it's like if they were in a hunter-gatherer tribe, then it's like, okay, this is what we do to make a shelter, and these are the plants we can eat, right? These are the slots. And so then plants that look kind of like this, well, maybe, then you can expand it. Well, it kind of looks like this, and it tastes and it smells like this, and maybe it would be good too, and we can maybe add that to the category, right? And then it expands. But when there's just no category at all, then, well, how do you even interact with this thing? You can't really, right? You can only interpret it through a lens that you had for something else.
So is this metaphor, using this metaphor in regards to the schizoid and the social landscape?
Yeah, in the sense that if these categories are understood phenomenologically by the familial environment before the child ever appears in the world, then when they start enacting patterns of behavior and thought which align with the category, then it's like, oh, okay, I know who you are, and this is how I can interact with you, right? And then you have both people actively trying to bridge the communication gap, which takes stress off of the child, right? Yes. Like it's not the child's responsibility to explain their own cognition to the parent. That's impossible.
Yeah, but that's what a lot of schizoids growing up ended up doing.
Yeah, but I mean, and that's why, that's probably a reason for a lot of pathology.
Yeah. Because you're sitting there, and you're not sharing your cognitive experience with the people who birthed you.
Right.
So
how can they help you navigate it? They can't.
Well, no, then you end up having to navigate it on your own.
Right, and then that can cause all sorts of misinterpretations, and if you're not like otherworldly smart, and open to new information, then you might get put in an insular box, right, with very limited information, and you'll have very strange perceptions of what's going on. And so then that's like the bleed into the other parts of.
Is that when you start? And then you start getting more low functioning situations, right?
Yeah.
That what I often wondered is why is it like, because I understand why it is the schizoid is usually well versed in some kind of like either literature or subject matter and so on. I know why, and it's not because big brain. It's because search, dig, search. Like that's like the most basic reason why so many schizoids are well versed in a variety of topics, is because they're doing nothing but trying to construct the self, construct connections, construct things that are missing, look for rewards that actually align with whatever reward system they're trying to develop.
Well, they're looking for language which is as abstract as the thoughts that they're having.
And and what they're experiencing, and because and what's interesting too is that hey, what's up, Dylan? The schizoid is very, very unique, an individual between, like, if you go from schizoid to schizoid, the only similarities are going to be some of those experiential ones, like the ones about the search for things, the digging for things, the trying to connect to this or that, trying and giving up, failing and feeling like you're going to succeed and failing again. Like, those experiences that shape a lot of schizoids are commonalities, but they're highly, highly unique because the direction in which they took their searches oftentimes differ significantly. And I find that really interesting. So that's how you end up with a bunch of different schizoids that are very, very in tune with a variety of topics. Like, they become hyper focused on those topics because that's currently where they're at in their life, in their search for a self, in their search for connection. And what I find funny, the funniest thing, is that because they can't seem to find a connection with other human beings, which is where usually human beings search and find connections and self, right? Is with their interactions with others. And what's hilarious to me is that we still can do the same. Like, the schizoid can technically still accomplish these rewards and accomplish these connections via the same mechanism that a neurotypical person does as well, but those mechanisms have to be applied to an entirely different demographic, which is other schizoids or other sort of cluster A thinking people that they can actually connect to. And I think it's funny because in our search, in our digging through, tomes and videos and so on and so forth, whatever, what have you, all we did was build up a bunch of interests and knowledge that we aren't necessarily even connected to on an emotional level. And then the very thing that actually connects us in any capacity to a human being has nothing to do with all these interests. It has to do with just merely socializing, just like every other human does, but they have to be socializing in the correct environment and context. And that's hilarious to me. Like, all it takes is to find another human that abstracts the same way you do and has a similar language as yourself, and then all of a sudden you feel heard, you feel understood. And all that search, all that philosophical searching, though it gave you better, more concrete language to describe what it is you're experiencing, or in an attempt to share it with other people like yourself, it's not what is actually achieving your goal of connecting.
I see. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that really illustrates the point of culturally constructed pathology, in the sense that how much energy are we wasting searching for the most basic things that would be required to structure a functioning community, right? Like, we're having to do so much work to get that which everyone has, or which people have, which allows them to function in the world, right? Like, it feels like these tiny little isolated pockets which are spread out across massive distances, and you spend years of your life just crawling through the mud, right? Like, the things that you might not necessarily even care about, trying to get to another one of those isolated pockets. And some people never get there, right? Some people just get lost in that sea. It's like they never emerge.
Mm-hmm.
They never show up.
Well, I mean, that's what my intention is with all this. My intention with the channel, my intention with the server is that very specific thing now. And it's funny because the longer I do this, the longer I run the channel, and as small as it is, I mean, in terms of schizoids, I guess my channel's really big.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
in terms of my server with only like 300 people or so in it, like it's really big considering the demographic. And it evolves. Like my goals and my perception of what it is I'm attempting to do has evolved significantly from when I started. As I've described before, it went from relatability to accepting that there is some connectivity and accepting that there is in fact some sort of like like you often mention, some kind of plasticity in the brain is being worked with, that's allowing new experiences and new kind of emotional range for a lot of people involved in interacting socially on the server, or just even experiencing or seeing these interactions on like my silly channel or whatever. It seems to produce something, and then now that we've had this discussion, because this is now what I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, so all this really is that, like what you described, all this is a bunch of people that have been searching in the dark, searching, over exerting themselves, and all they needed was accompaniment, just like anybody else. It's just a different type of accompaniment, a different form of accompaniment, not with with less rules, less rigidity, less constriction almost on one's attempt to develop a self.
That's my. I mean, that brings up a question about what even is schizoid, because the way that schizoid is spoken about clinically, it's just the isolation itself. But what we're talking about here suggests that no, there's something below that, right? There's something beneath that, which is more important.
Far more important. The isolation is the least important part of being schizoid.
Right.
Which is kind of hilarious. Like, if you think about it. Like, that is the number one thing that's talked about or mentioned. But it's like probably the least important aspect of being schizoid is the need to isolate. And that's kind of hilarious.
It's like the most. It's like the most abstract expression. You know, it's the only thing that people see, and so it's the only thing they think about.
Like, it's just funny because it stops becoming a question of, oh, they stop asking why are these people alone.
Right. They go, oh, the disorder is that they're alone.
Or that they want to be alone.
Yeah, that's the disorder.
The disorder is they prefer to be alone.
Right.
And nobody brings up the question. It's like, do they really prefer to be alone?
Does anybody actually prefer to be alone? We are social mammals.
No,
right?
but this is what I mean. Do they prefer to be alone, or do they just prefer to be alone in the environment that they can't function within?
Right. Well, like, do they? I mean, another way of putting it: do they prefer to be alone or surrounded by people that make them uncomfortable?
Yeah, that is the question. Like, that is what should actually be asked, and then asking why are they uncomfortable? What mechanisms are in place that make them uncomfortable, or what is either what is happening in their experience that is making them so uncomfortable to deal with things that are intuitive to the average person, and what sort of things are they actually strong at doing or experiencing or taking part in? Why is it that so many schizoids are good at this and that and isolated type work, and so on and so forth? Like, it just, there's a lot of questions that could be asked about what it is to be schizoid, and that's not what's being. All the schizoids are asking that to themselves. They're asking those questions in their own minds, but the psychological community is not asking these questions. It could be, and this is the issue too. I think it's because it's so different. It's so different. The cluster A's sort of experiences are so different than anything happening in the other clusters.
Well, there's another part too. Like, so here's an example, right? Like, the trait distribution, which is most common for people in the fields which are supposed to treat schizoid, are the very traits which make the schizoid the most uncomfortable. And you can contrast this with a person
elaborate on that. That's so funny.
I mean, I'll do it through an analogy, through a contrast to something that does work, right?
Okay.
So, depth psychology is very attractive to schizoids. Jungian psychology is very attractive to schizoids. Some people even talk about depth psychology as a practice, like even the practitioners are schizoids, right? It's very abstract. So in those situations, the schizoid starts to open up, and this was sort of in the literature I was reading that I got sent, the psychoanalytic literature. The schizoid tends to gravitate towards psychoanalysis, but then compare and contrast to the more systematic, almost autistic, scientific in quotes structures of the DSM, of behavioral therapy, of these other ways of looking at the world. And if you go to a psychiatrist, right, the part of being in that system is sort of mapping it out piece by piece and then holding fast to the system in a concretized state. And what the schizoid is likely to do, because they're hyper abstractors, is to go, well, hold on, right? Let me abstract the essences out of this situation. And then once you do that, you can reconstruct them in a different way. And then the different way that you reconstruct them is at odds with the old way. And sometimes it's right. Sometimes it's true. And sometimes it's wrong, right? Because the price of creativity is that you'll make leaps which are wrong, right? The price of leaping is that you're going to hit something eventually, but sometimes it'll be something good.
But that's a skill. That's a skill in and of itself.
Yeah, but the point is that's
no. But I'm saying that's a skill to be able to differentiate between a hit and a non-hit.
Oh yeah, well for sure, right?
Yeah,
but
anyway,
the point is trying to relate this back to the point is that mode of leaping, that mode of creative cognition, is so opposed to the clinical, structural, systematic, that when you have these two people interacting, right, there's the neurological barrier is possibly even stronger than it would have been between the schizoid and their own family in certain circumstances, right?
That's hilarious. That's so fucking funny. Because, like, I mean, it's no wonder. And then they're writing articles about, or not articles, they're writing papers. I read one a while back about, like, why is it that the schizoid doctor relationship fails so often?
Right, this is why. Right? I mean, I observed that myself.
That's definitely, this is... We need to bring these questions. These are the discussions. This is why I need to get Dr. Eleanor Greenberg on here, man. These are the questions that need to be brought up, because I think these are some of the things that she's worded similar kind of concerns about the schizoid therapist experience, in not so many words. And I think that if people like ourselves that are a little more vocal, or less hesitant to communicate these things, we can actually make strides, or in how it is that the schizoid is helped, and the type of environment that's required in order to help them.
Well, I mean, just really concretely and practically, wouldn't it be great if you go in, like, let's say you discover you're schizoid and you go in for therapy, and they go, "Oh, you're schizoid. That's great. Go here," right? Like, just because what we're really talking about here is the treatment is to figure out just that you are schizoid, and then to have the environments open up to you to interact with other people who are similar.
Yeah, because it'll be like, "Oh, you're schizoid. Yeah. Go here." So right. Then you go here, and then you're like, "Oh, I feel better now." I feel a little
Right,
bit
like-
better, and
Yeah.
and now all I have to do is deal with my regular underlining issues and monsters that like other people that aren't schizoid have to deal with. Like say you have issues with BPD or
Right.
avoidant traits and things like that, and other underlining insecurities and issues and anxiety. It's like, okay, yeah, that's all stuff that's not going to remedy itself just by surrounding yourself with other schizoids, but by doing
but it can start to.
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because-
That's like
because,
step
like,
one.
Yeah. Well, step one is having a reference system of value that you can negotiate and make. If you don't have that to begin with, you can't make any progress because you don't have any goal to get closer to.
Yeah, because
Right? There's no motivation.
why overcome your anxiety other than to mitigate suffering? And that's not exactly the best motivator, because you need rewards of some kind.
Yeah.
Not just-
Mitigating suffering is not enough, right? Like people will just happily be miserable. Happily just they'll continue to be miserable if they don't have some sort of
because it's
social
like,
goal
okay,
structure in
so
place.
assuming like if you're with your therapist and you go, oh, assuming I accomplish these goals of overcoming my anxiety and depression and all these other things, what then? What am I left with? And that's what a lot of people feel. Like, why even attempt to alleviate these circumstances if there's no goal structure? Like I said, like there's no reason for me to alleviate these things. Like, what is the end
deeper
game?
than that.
Yeah.
It's even deeper than that in the sense that, like, why would I even want to, like, so I have these goals. Why would I even want to complete my book or study or get this degree or do any of this if I'm not going to be loved? That's really what it is. That's really what it is at the bottom, because all of the super derived complex patterns of action and behavior and goal structure are built out of a system of, I want to be loved by the community. I want to feel safe and secure, and
I want to be loved by
appreciated.
someone,
Right, by someone,
and understood. Right. I like to use understood because the word love is kind of anathema for a lot of schizoids out there. Not myself, but for a lot of them, when they hear that word, they're just like, ugh,
Yeah.
Like it's like,
because, that makes sense, because the version of love that they've been experiencing has been
garbage cans. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But so I like understanding. I noticed that the word understanding is a lot more conducive to the schizoid ear, and understanding is also, I mean, in reality, it's associated strongly with this idea of what love is supposed to be. It's to feel understood and cared for. Love
is very abstract in this sense. I guess
exactly.
what
it's
it
very
really
vague.
Means, what it really means in this context is to be successfully integrated into a mode of productive activity with other people who understand that your mode of activity
not necessarily
is
with the same amount of people that say the average experiencer is needs or wants to accomplish. Probably to a much lesser, more local degree. Like, I feel like the schizoid could be just fine being a part of, say, an online schizoid community, and then developing at home more locally a few IRL sort of connections via this new sort of experience and emotional range increasing and so on, and this acceptance or more openness to these things, and then just have, that's it. Like, I'm the type of person that just needs, like, okay, I didn't used to need, but like now I need my wife, I need my kids, right? And then I need maybe like very like less people than I can count on my hand that are actually close to me in any regard. Before that, it would have been like much less, but I'm older now. I'm fucking 37, and I've worked at this, and I've been doing this stuff on the server, and that's opened me up to a lot of stuff. Just the over half a year, I guess. Actually, now 8 months now, or 9 months almost. Well, but 8 months of server, I think, I think it's 7. I don't know. 7 months. I think 7 months of this actual server has opened me up to increase that number, like in a healthy capacity. Like, I can actually develop a friendship, though probably not to the same degree as neurotypical person that could have like 10, 12 friends, that they keep track of and care about and all this stuff. I can't do that. That's just too much. This is just crazy. Like, I need like Yeah, you know what I'm saying, right?
Well, yeah, because it seems like you have built up a system of value structure which
Correct.
which regulates your mood across time, right? And then that process allows for, well, sometimes pushing a little bit further than you would necessarily want to, right? But in comparison to someone who doesn't have that value structure built up, it's like, how could you ever do that? Impossible. I could never do that. It's absurd.
Yeah. I want to something that was funny that Dylan put in the chat. He said, "Why would this person choose to starve? They are surrounded by shellfish. They must have an eating disorder."
Oh shit! Hold on, my autism is playing up. Explain it to me.
No, because it said like it's like somebody looking at somebody that's sitting around shellfish, and then somebody's just going, "Why are they choosing to starve? They must have an eating disorder." But they're not asking the question, "Oh, maybe they're allergic to shellfish."
Oh yeah, right.
Like
right.
that's not what they're asking. So the person is choosing to starve, then die of asphyxiation and horror.
So the disorder is it's the choosing to starve disorder, rather than the allergic to shellfish.
They're choosing this. The shellfish are other people, and we don't eat shellfish. We want chicken tendies. We don't want.
Speak for yourself.
Well, what do you like?
I don't like tendies. I don't eat tendies.
You should eat tendies. What's wrong with
you?
What kind of schizoid doesn't eat tendies?
I've never eaten a tendy in my life.
What kind of autist, first of all, doesn't eat tendies?
Me.
That's terrible.
I eat vegetables. I'm a healthy
vegetables.
Boy.
You're a healthy boy. Okay, well, imagine being surrounded by almonds, right? You're allergic to almonds.
Oh, yeah, I would die.
And they're saying, "Hey, why don't you eat something? Stop eating." Yeah, that's what Dylan just said. What kind of autistic person doesn't like tendies?
Me. I love how you're explaining the analogy to me. Thank you.
What about the shellfish?
Yeah. Now you're relating it to me personally by going, "What if you were surrounded by almonds?" Just to make it more concrete.
What if you're surrounded by almonds and everyone's bitching about how you're not eating and you're getting, and you must be have an eating disorder.
No, I get the abstraction. Yeah, I'm there. I'm with you.
It's so funny. It's a good texture. Dylan says it's a good texture. Chicken tendies have a good texture.
What even are chicken tendies?
Well, it's usually referring to chicken tenders, like like the fried chicken breast tenders.
I don't tenders, huh?
And there's tendies and there's nuggies, and then those are like the more microwavable chicken nuggets.
Is this like what single moms give to their children?
No, this is what single guys that are autistic eat in their microwave.
Oh.
No. Hey, and by the way, fuck you. I occasionally have given my daughter chicken nuggies. I am not a single mom.
You're not a mom.
No, I know, but you don't have to be a fucking. And that's kind of mean to single moms, man. They cook too. Holy shit.
I was just mean like because they're so busy. Well, they're single because they have to work. So they work so hard, they come home and they help.
I know. I'm fucking with you. I'm fucking with you.
What? It's fair. Come on.
I'm fucking with you, man.
I know.
Einherjar, I can't even say Einherjarn, had a serious question. They said, "What makes you say they gravitate to psychoanalysis, the schizoid?"
Okay, that's a deep question.
If you don't want to answer it, you don't have to.
I can answer. Just give me. I'm still a little like hungover, so
yeah. Hungover. Tell them what you were hungover on.
Ketamine.
Yeah.
Why are schizoids attracted to psychoanalysis? Well, psychoanalysis is the investigation of subpersonalities. It's the investigation. It's the characters. And we know that schizoids are abstract. And what's very abstract? Well, characters are very abstract. Stories are very abstract, right? So psychoanalysis is really a narrative kind of therapy, especially Jungian psychoanalysis. It's very narrative and mythological.
That's the good shit.
Yeah, so that's why we're attracted to it.
Oh, I lost him. Sorry, guys. I lost the burb. Songbird went flying. Oh, there he is.
I accidentally left the call, but I'm back.
Okay. So anybody, I got 11 viewers now. That's an all-time high for the stream.
All right.
Right. Do you guys have any questions regarding all the nonsense we were talking about, so we can elaborate further, or you can just get us going again? Some hunter got burb. Some hunter got burb. Yeah,
I wish.
Yeah, I know. Burb wants
That's
to get
my
pinned
fantasy.
down by a hunter.
Yeah.
Oh no. Well, if we don't have anything further to say about that in particular, we're going to go ahead and go down some more Reddit questions. Because this is what I was talking about. Oh, you know what? This is a good subject. Because this is what I was always talking about. More and more, Dylan said, more and more I see the same person or type of person that would fill the same character role in a story. Yeah, see, that's what I mean by I think that's what I'm also referring to, Burb, when I'm talking about seeing people as concepts and characters and narratives.
Oh no, I totally understand.
Oh,
I
yeah.
understand that completely.
Okay.
So for me, it's all concepts all the time.
Yeah,
So
but that's what I'm saying. You're not metacognating.
Well, I am metacognating.
No, you're not metacognating into the neurotypical experience.
Well, no, I am. They just don't know their concepts.
Oh, okay. They don't know. Oh, okay.
No,
you see the truth. You see the truth.
Well, no, it's not the truth. It's just that
your chakra, your autism chakra, open.
Okay, no, okay. All right, I was talking about this a while ago. Let me try to explain. So, I was talking about this for hours in the philosophy, trying to explain it. And I couldn't really get there. This was back. We were arguing about whether you can get values from facts, and I was saying that it's two fluxes of the same, or there's two fluxes, part of the same process. So when you're inside of a value structure and you're not aware of the value structure, right? You don't know that it's a concept. It just feels like reality. It's still a concept because anybody else who would interface with it would have to be metacognating it, right?
Yeah.
So for everybody else, it's a concept. For you, it's reality. But then when you metacognate, then it becomes a concept for you. But it was a concept the whole time because the only way we could interact with it was as a concept, right?
So is
embedded in a value structure.
So is it about maybe the difference is it's not so much that I see the human interaction as or other people as something different than other people do. I just self-aware of the fact that they're concepts.
Yeah.
And they're archetypes and concepts and narratives, and my life is a narrative, and everything experienced around me is like a narrative.
And that it's not precisely accurate.
Yeah,
right?
None of it's accurate.
That you could shift out any number of these different lenses and different configurations, and some of them would work, and some of them didn't, and you don't know which one.
Yeah, you're just having fun. You're just going with the flow, man. Okay, so yeah, okay, that's good. No, what I wanted to bring up that was interesting is that. By the way, Burb, when are we gonna get you on camera one day?
When I move into my new place and set up my camera.
All right, cool. We'll work our way there. I want to see that pretty face.
I'll be shy.
About
this.
It's okay. Really I'll act like more of a buffoon than you ever could to direct the attention of me.
Okay, well, it's gonna interfere with my ability to like articulate for a while. I'll have to get used to it.
Oh, you know what you could do is just make sure that you can't see yourself on the screen.
Oh shit, no. I'll be so worried.
No, like, so make it so that you can't see your, because you won't be able to. Like, don't look, like, have your screen off and then just talk. And
yeah, but then I'll be like moving around all autistic like, and then
that'll make for entertainment.
Great.
I just love that, like, the most, like, the guy that, like, floats in space and is the most. It can go into levels of abstraction that I dare not tread at times, is more concerned about things like that than I am, and I find that really funny to me.
It's the autism schizoid mix.
Yeah, I know it has to be, because like I'm so unconcerned with how I'm being like perceived by people.
Right.
Like I give two shits. It's like I don't care. Whatever, man. Nothing matters. Who cares?
No, but like I don't think you understand. Like putting me on camera is hard because of how much I fucking move. Like when I'm talking here, like I'm moving I've been in every corner of my room.
Oh, well,
times.
then just move.
Yeah, I have to have a camera that like covers the. But then, man, that's
Who cares?
embarrassing.
Who cares? Why is it embarrassing? Okay. Just walk around. Be autistic. Right. Who gives a shit? Show how it really is. Anyway, just if you get up and it's just your chair and you're talking and fucking you're going all over the place, fuck it. Who cares? Yeah. It's just or get yourself like a mic that can follow you, like the
I'll get a mic that follows me. I'll be wandering around my room.
Yeah, it'll look like you're giving a TED talk every time you're on the stream.
Okay.
No, but
you know what? If we do that, what'll actually happen is like I'll spend most of the time off camera, and then I'll occasionally walk through the camera and then back to the other side.
That's fine. I don't care. But you gotta occasionally show people that pretty face. You can't just. You need to. Anyway, pacing while thinking gives a pretty big brain vibe. To be honest, Orange Arm said, "Yeah, it does." There you go. You're pacing while thinking. But that's how you get all your exercise, huh?
Yeah, that's how I get all my exercise.
Just walking back and forth all your.
Are super muscular, but the rest of me is not at all.
Yeah, just your legs from all your autistic walking.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. Yeah, I actually have like thick thighs and like stuff.
There you go, boys. He's got thighs.
Yep.
You have that to look forward to, seeing his thick thighs go across the screen on occasion.
I won't be displaying my thighs, but
you could.
You can imagine.
It might help my channel.
I don't think you're gonna weaponize my autistic sex appeal to get viewers.
I love that autistic sex appeal. I will gladly weaponize it.
Okay.
They're gonna start calling you waifu. They're gonna autist waifu on this channel. Anyway, beyond that, beyond the burb, there's something interesting that I had discussed on other streams, which is, and when I've tried to bring this up to other schizoids, I think they do it, and a lot of them don't know they do it, or they're not quite as aware of doing it. Burb-chan, that's what Dylan said. Burb-chan, is that you'll start having a conversation, and then everyone participating in that conversation will start abstracting in different directions, but because everyone can hold all these abstractions in their head most of the time, the conversation keeps flowing and keeps going, and it keeps going in different directions, and it's very malleable, and it's strange, and by the time like an hour goes by, like you are in a complete different place than where you started. And I find that fascinating. I've had a few schizoids, critique the not the channel, but like my content, because they're like, oh, I prefer when you're just by yourself rambling, right? And other people are like, oh, I really like the conversations, I prefer that, or whatever. And it's back and forth, and I think a lot of it has to do with finding pleasure or enjoyment to a degree in that kind of crazy sort of abstraction our cluster A brains tend to do, and I take pleasure in it. I like revel in it, right? And I think that's a way. Hold on, I can't hold a convo with an NT that isn't basically an interrogation, says Dylan. Yeah, and Einherjarn says, it could also lead. Oh, what's up?
An interrogation. Are you interrogating them, or are they interrogating you?
I'm curious too. I'm just gonna say Ein is easier. Ein says, it could also lead it to talking past each other a bunch. Yeah, but you know what's weird is, okay, so way earlier in the service creation, when we were first using the VC and doing our first kind of conversations about stuff, I said something that kind of made a few people kind of think about it and laugh a little bit. Is that when you're with schizoids and you're having a conversation, it's like 2 or 3 or 4 people, however many there are, having a conversation with themselves and with each other at the same time.
What?
Like it's so weird. It's like everyone's still in their head. Everyone else is having these kind of narratives and conversations in their mind with these concepts that are like popping up all over them, right? And the people they're discussing them with are also just concepts intertwined with the concepts that are inside the mind. So the internal and the external becomes the same. They all become just concepts, undifferentiated in any capacity. And so a lot of the times, the schizoid, when I've had conversations with other schizoids, it turns into like this like they start going off into tangents here, and this one goes off here, and then but the person that went off on a tangent over here connects it to their tangent, and then do, and it just keeps building and building and building and building. And for the most part, the majority of the people can just like go with it. Some people are like, this is too much, or they enjoyed one part of the abstraction, but they didn't enjoy the direction it went over here, and so they rather go back to this one, and so on and so forth. But it's funny, like the actual conversation abstracting to the point where it turns into something entirely different from where it started. That is fucking consistent. Like, it's consistent every single time I've had a conversation on the stream or with other people, and it's a long form. It always turns into that. Like, we don't even need like a list of questions. Like
asking them questions leads to acquaintance relationships where I know a lot about them and them not knowing jack about me, but they like me for whatever reason.
Yeah, because you're talking about them.
Yeah, I run into this too, in the sense that like when I do employ the question heuristic set, then I
can't hear you. You're kind of breaking up.
Hello?
Hold on. All right, say something.
Back? Oh,
you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know why.
Let me turn off my. How's this?
Yeah, that sounds better. Go ahead. What were you saying?
I was just saying, commenting on the. Well, let me go back to the YouTube comments so I can look at it. When I ask questions, I can like form an ongoing discourse with a normative person. I've stopped doing that, and my new again, I don't. This is not my area. This is not my area of expertise. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just talking about.
I don't know what I'm doing about anything. So who cares? Just go ahead. We're all stupid.
Trying. Well, so here are two questions. I'm going to show interest.
Wait, you're breaking up again.
Well, I switched.
There. Okay, you're good now. I think you keep getting robot-y. You keep getting a little robot-y.
I switched the data, so it shouldn't be.
Yeah, you're still getting robot-y for some reason.
Be quiet until
Damn it! I hate it because I want to hear what you have to say. It's fucking annoying.
Until it's done.
I don't know why it's robot-y. You're like, it goes like into robot a little bit. It's connection related, Burb. So it just has to do with your connection. Try jumping off the call and then getting back in.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's way better. Why do you sound better too?
I don't know. I don't know why.
Okay, well there you go. Go ahead. Tell us about this.
I'll try again. Hopefully it works. Yeah, the me asking all the questions thing gets. I don't know why this is happening, but it gets really sort of sad and boring. So the new thing that I do is I will show that kind of interest, and then I'll wait for it to be reciprocated, right? Like I'll just be like, all right, I'll just assume, okay, it's your turn, right? And if the reciprocation doesn't come back, then I just don't proceed with the interaction from that point. Because I think because of the ASD traits, sometimes what'll end up happening is I'll go down the question line, and then the whole interaction will just be me detail spiraling over the intricacies of their personality. And of course that makes them feel good, but it's really draining.
Yeah, Yeah, it's a lot of effort.
I'm wondering why it is, because I've been really struggling with this, is that people don't want to ask me questions in like in dating circumstances, in potential friendships and social environments. Like they don't ever return the same amount of interest that I'll show as just a courtesy, right?
There might be a reason for it outside of like the the most uncharitable view, which is, oh, you're just not interesting, it's because that's probably what no but you are. But I think what it is that one, you might not be interesting to normative people.
Yeah,
because that, or also you might not you kind of give off this. I'm trying to think in the context of somebody that's like a regular person, like the way you speak and the way you jump from subject to subject, an idea, and drop things. It might be intimidating for some people because it's too fast, too quick. It's hard to keep up, and you're going all over the place, and you're dropping these dropping certain words and subjects and ideas and so on and so forth. And maybe it's some kind of intimidation factor, like, oh no, this guy is well read and this stuff, and I don't know what to ask him. Or maybe if somebody's insecure or something. Like there could be a variety of factors why somebody would do that. But but one of them could be that you're just not interesting to a person that is, wanting to talk about more normative stuff and social things. Like they're not really interested in talking about abstractions of that kind. Like,
I guess that makes sense.
But obviously to someone like myself, you're very interesting because I am interested in having those kinds of discussions on a consistent basis. So, but because what's funny is that I've had this similar experience. Like I've had that same situation where when I was younger, I would go to like some kind of drinking thing. So I'd go and I'd like start drinking, and because you drink, you're just like, you're just more, I can tolerate stuff more, and then I'm just like, okay, let's start talking. And so, okay, let's you start talking and stuff, and then you start saying all this shit, and then you start like breaking down what they're saying, and then what it has to do with that, and how it's associated to this and that, and blah blah blah. And then you get people that are just like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like, I just want to talk about nothing. I just want to sit here and drink beer and talk about like what chicks are hot or something, or like or this cool new movie I watched. Like, because this is what happened to me. It'd be like, oh, I saw this movie in the theaters, and I'd be like, oh yeah, what did you think? I also saw that movie. And then it's like, oh, yeah, it was pretty good. It had these cool scenes, like where stuff happened, and I'm like, oh yeah, stuff. Yeah, huh? What'd you say? Why'd you say stop? What'd you say stop?
I didn't know. I said stuff.
Oh, stuff. Oh, I thought you said stop.
And I was like, oh yeah.
Okay, yeah, stuff. And then that's what they want to talk about. But meanwhile, what I end up doing is, oh yeah, in this particular scene, this was displayed, and I wonder what this meant. And I think I'm trying to discern what the director was thinking when they did this, and the scriptwriter must have been attempting to do this, but I don't know. I've seen other stories like this, and this seems to be like influenced by this, and blah 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 blah. And like those are the conversations I want to have, and that's where my brain goes. It doesn't go to whatever the most concrete stuff is. It goes all over the fucking place. And I'm not saying that's better, or, oh, look at me, I got a fucking big brain, or whatever. It's just not interesting to a lot of people. They don't give a shit about that. They just want to know, did you like the movie? Why did you like it? I also like the movie. This is why I think I liked it. These are the things I like. Why don't you tell me more about things you like, and I'll tell you more about things I like. And then that way we can establish like a social connection of some kind. I'm trying to understand like the distinction, because so what does that mean when they say I like something and why, right? Like, because all I'm thinking is like, I said like so many times, fucking kill me. No, it's okay. You're Californian. You can get away with it. Oh no, you're not. Never mind. You can't. You're West Coast.
I was born in California.
Oh, that's why you dropped the likes. You're good.
I can drop the likes.
Yeah.
No. Seeing a character do a thing and going, oh, I would like to do that thing. And when the character does the thing, it makes me feel good. And I like that character. Like I'm trying to concretize your picture
Yeah.
of what's going on in their mind, right? I'm thinking of going to, like the last that last Star Wars movie that was terrible, and all the people who liked it, and me walking out of the theater and going, I didn't, and so when I asked them why did you like it, it really just comes down to Rey's cool. She makes me feel good when she beats up the bad guys, and I'm like,
and
all right.
lasers are cool, and explosions are cool, and that little guy, that little creature thing was cute, and Yoda was in it, and wasn't it cool? Luke Skywalker was in it.
Oh, and Palpatine came back. Oh, I don't like Palpatine. Palpatine's the big bad. Wow, I can't believe he lived.
Like, okay, see, and it's funny, like we talk about it in a really kind of like that's one of the issues with the Schizoid that they have to work on too, is if they want to be able to kind of not integrate, but like be less bothered by certain normie shit, is that like this idea of like even now we're talking about it in a very like
mocking way.
Yeah, like I like, like it's not very nice.
No, it's not.
It's not nice, and because they can mock in a similar fashion about the stuff that interests or we gravitate toward when talking about certain subjects, so more abstract shit. And yeah, they can make fun of us, be like, oh, look at this fucking dweeb, like he's so obsessed with like the intricacies of a fucking movie. Who gives a shit?
Well, I mean, I think more representatively for the Schizoid experience, it's the nesting of characters in a sea of other potential characters.
Yes.
And the nesting of plots in a sea of other potential plots.
Yes.
Right? Which is different from the autistic perspective, which would be like extreme logical rules of language and plot and consistency. Like if you want to find plot holes, ask an autistic. If you want to figure out what a story means in relation to other stories, ask a Schizoid.
If you talk to a cluster 8 person, especially a Schizoid, about why the last Star Wars movie was bad, they can give you all the complicated narrative reasons, the character building flaws, all sorts of shit like that, all this fucking mythos sort of stuff. And if you ask an autistic person, they're gonna name everything that was wrong with like the way the Force was implemented, the way it was discussed, the way that
based on previous rules,
previous rules
right?
and systems that were already it was already in place. And that's what's funny about this movie, is that it's bad on all levels.
Right. Well, no, another thing about the Schizoid experience, which is relevant right there, is the idea of abstracting out the essence of a character and then going and then applying different details to the abstraction and going, well, what if it was like this? Wouldn't it have been better?
Right, exactly. Hold on a second. I gotta take a quick call. Go ahead and entertain these folks a little bit.
Oh no, you can't leave me by myself.
I have to for like a few seconds. Hold on, I have to. Or just sit there quietly. Hold on, I don't care. Okay. Dead air is fine. Just give me like 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm going 1, 2, 3. Dead silence.
I has returned.
Hello.
How did you survive, Burb?
I said nothing.
You said nothing? That's
I
amazing.
said nothing the entire time.
Amazing. Let me keep up with the chats here because I got all kinds of stuff here. Okay. Ein said, sounds pretty Zoid-like. Practically all my social interactions has to revolve around some factor or argument or of decision. Dylan said, their questions might be like, what do you like to do, scared people? Oh, I think he tried to put a scared people there. Ein, I like to deal with questions of substance. Dylan, eat breakfast. Ein, reminds me of when I watched Grave of the Fireflies. Barely felt something, maybe twice in the movie for a few seconds. Most of the thoughts I had about it had to do with the factual information I knew about the American firebombing of the cities or hypothetical alternative scenarios, and how the boy was morally at fault for his sister's death, being too arrogant to deal with his aunt. Just that kind of processing always. Yeah, it is like that. Like, I mean, anytime I see a movie, I can always tell you how I believe, even if I'm wrong. It's all subjective. I'll tell you how I believe what the director or writer or whatever was trying to implement, what potential was squandered. I can always tell you, like, what potential was squandered in a film or a book or something like that. And it's funny too because are you there, Burb? Burb died.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, no, yeah. It's funny though because a lot of the times people confuse you kind of discussing potential or things or alternatives that could have been better or could have, like, you know, set up the story in a better way for this or that reason. Many times people see that as you saying that you don't like that movie or you don't like the thing. And it's like, no, that's not what I said. I said that these are the things that could have been improved upon, in my opinion. Does it mean it means I hate this movie now or this thing? No. Because
I guess the question is, how many arguments have you found yourself in? I don't know. I can't speak for your experience, but for me, it felt like through most of my childhood, I was always in an argument and I never knew why. Like, I was just talking and then suddenly someone would start arguing with me. I was like, why are you arguing with me?
Dude,
what did I do?
That's my life, man. That's my whole fucking life. Like, that's something that me and my wife had to, like, kind of like okay. So there's certain instances where, like, it used to be that, like, because especially if you're dealing with like a dating situation or something, oftentimes, or just with people that don't think like that, what ends up happening is that you start bringing into question they feel as if you're attacking something that they enjoyed, right? And in turn, that's like an attack on their taste or their interests or something like that. They're emotionally attached to the thing that you're arguing about, and you're not. And so you're sitting there going, this is what could have done that's better. And they're like, yeah, but it was still good. And then you're like, yeah, but this could have been better. And it's like, but why do you have to nitpick everything? And I'm like,
Well,
so on and so forth, and it turns
our
into
language,
like a thing.
Our language is being infected because what's really happening is not necessarily what could have been done better. In some sense, yes, that's a correct interpretation. But in terms of the experience of the people who are speaking that way, what it really is creating a new story right off the bat and then imagining yourself watching it. Yeah. Right? It's just a new story.
Or would you have preferred to watch it? What direction you would have preferred it to go in that you find more stimulating in some regard?
It's the creative process because art is derived from other forms of art, right? And so, how do you get from one piece of media to another? Well, you observe things. Oh, maybe this would be different, or this could be different, right? You shift them around, and then you have a new story. Right, that's the storytelling mode. That's how you get from point A to point B. So it's not just criticism, right? Like it's being experienced as. I mean, that's how it feels like to me. Like when I watch a piece of media and then I go and speculate, right? It feels like I'm. It's almost like I'm making fan fiction, right? And you don't make fan fiction because you hate the film. You make fan fiction because you love the film.
Yeah, or you thought it was good, and then so you start like thinking like, oh my gosh, like. But there are
Why was it
situations.
good?
Why was it
Why was it
good?
good?
Yeah, why
Yeah.
was it good? And well, there are instances in which something I can hate something, but but you know what's funny is that when I hate something, I can sit there and complain till my face is blue, but it doesn't really accomplish much, except for sometimes like getting a few laughs out of the absurdity of whatever it is I'm criticizing. But oftentimes when I'm criticizing a movie, say a movie is like a 5 out of 10, right? It's not a great movie, but it had this awesome idea, this really great concept that wasn't fully like fleshed out, and it's that part is me caring about that concept not being fully fleshed out. Like it's not me hating the movie. It's more like, oh man, what a missed opportunity that was. Like they could have done this or this or this or that. And any one of those wouldn't have made it a perfect movie, but it would have made it a better movie. It would have made it. It would have conveyed the entire purpose, like the point, the moral, the dilemma, whatever idea it was trying to get across. It would have done a better job if it did this, or if it didn't focus on this idea, but this idea as it was a better vehicle for conveying this idea than it was for the one that they intended. Like and stuff like that. Those are the conversations I like to have, and that's me pointing out the potential of something, the value that it could have possessed, and the values that it does have.
Well, it's almost like you're abstracting out some sort of spirit of the movie.
Oh, for hold on, I gotta test it. Okay. Anyway, say it again. Say what you just said right now. Sorry.
It's like you're abstracting out some sort of spirit of the movie.
Yeah.
Right. There were patterns which generated sensation. Right. And then you can take those patterns outside of the context of the concrete viewing of the movie, and then operate on them.
Well, I mean,
independently.
It's like Ein said. Like, okay, Ein said that they watched Grave of the Fireflies, and they were just focused on the fact that the boy was morally at fault for his sister's death for being too arrogant to deal with his aunt, right? And so, and then also they were focused on the firebombing and what they knew about that history. So that there you go. Does that mean, oh, they're sitting there going, oh, this movie sucks. It's historically inaccurate, and this boy acted in a way different than I would, so it's stupid. It's like, no, that's not what Ein's saying. Ein's saying I'm focusing on all these things to discover some more intricate details about the development of this film, and also the like where it is that the narrative is attempting to take me morally or ethically or whatever. Like what lessons or ideas is it trying to convey in all this? And a lot of the people watching the movie, like they said, they were just like, "Oh, sister died, boy sad, he cried, that's sad." And Ein's going, okay, and I know that sounds mocking, but that's the fastest way I can convey it. Ein saying, oh, this was an unfortunate situation that could have been avoided if the character had done these things, but because of his arrogance, he's morally at fault. But then also that adds to the emotional gravity of the situation, because then you can think to yourself, maybe this boy is now self-aware of the fact that he is partially to blame for his sister's death, and that's why by the end of the movie, he's just sitting there, like homeless and completely like he's just he's almost catatonic, just sitting there.
Okay, well, wait. Let's analyze what's happening there cognitively. You're metacognitively projecting metacognition into a character.
Yes.
Right? And now I'm pointing that out. So it's how many meta layers deep?
As many as there needs to be.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, and that's the thing. Like, that's what's lost. It's like, oh, okay. So if you don't think about that, all you think about is, oh, it's sad. Look how sad he is. Oh, he's sad because his sister died. Like that's why he's sitting there homeless now at the end of the movie, staring off into nothing, is because he's so depressed that his sister died. Like, yeah.
Here's my autism.
Well, hold on. And I'll take it. But I would say, no, he's not just depressed because his sister died. It's because he's at fault for it. This thing that I, kind of determined regarding his decision-making and his arrogance, it might be the very reason he's in that state now. Not just because of depression, of loss, but also of guilt. But anyway, go ahead. Autism, go.
So that's very top down, in the sense of the ethical conditions of the interaction help to determine the emotional value, right? So it's like these are ideas about how we should behave because they've worked in the past is very heuristic, but then like bottom up, when the normative person is experiencing that heuristic, there's detail which is assumed. Some of it's shown, right? Some of it has to be shown, but most of it is assumed, in the sense that in some situations where your sister's dying or your sister's dead, you don't give a fuck, and nobody would give a fuck, right? And you can create a story where you want the sister to die easily.
Yeah, like she's like a villainous individual,
right?
That did all sorts of terrible deeds. Yeah.
Right, so it's not sister dead heuristic sad, right?
Yeah.
It's more than that, right? It's more than that, and the more than that is the more subtle heuristics which are employed as the movie progresses. But I think that bad storytelling relies this is trope, relies too much on the heuristic itself, right? They just assume, oh, everyone's going to care because the sister
cute sister dead.
Cute sister dead, right? Exactly, right. Well, what's going on there? There's a lot going on there. It's like, okay, so the sister's young and she's a girl and she's neotenous, and so there's
naive
and deep,
innocent,
the deep heuristic there, right? We care about, but the problem is that when those tropes are recycled so often, and they have been, we actually stop caring, right? Because we recognize that it's a trope. We recognize, oh, you're just putting a little girl there and putting her in danger to make us care, because you know that we care about the abstraction of little girls in danger.
Yeah, but that's what the schizoid or the autist might be doing in their mind. But
no, this is the point, because the autist, what the autist says is, you've given me no reason specifically to care about this individual person. Show me some detail, right?
Yes.
And then the schizoid goes, that's a fucking trope. Get out of here.
but that's my point. That is a fucking trope.
Yeah.
But I think in the attempt to, what's funny is I think the schizoid, in the attempt to find meaning out of something that involves a trope, you start doing something like metacognating. Like you start doing something like attempting to find a deeper significance in the action outside of the trope, because of the content of the film, and because you can tell as well that the movie was attempting to do something more artistic than merely just show you a trope, and Grave of the Fireflies is definitely that kind of a movie,
right?
Like,
right, yeah,
and
because okay.
So you can actually infer more into something like Grave of the Fireflies, because you know that this is a subject that's multi-layered and very nuanced and difficult to discuss, because the person who made this movie had to like really look deeply into the history of these events. You have to look deeply into portraying them properly, or as properly as you can. Look deeply into the consciousness of your country, because it came from, the movie was made in Japan. It's depicting an occurrence, that's culturally relevant in some regard. You have to there's all this stuff, all these layers that are being taken into account, because this is not a popcorn movie. It's not a movie that's just going oh, this is just a cool war movie. No, this is a movie in which they're attempting to explain or depict a multifaceted thing. And I think the schizoid is oftentimes very much can pick all that stuff up. The shittiest part is that many times we can do it and still get nothing out of it. So it's just oh, okay, I did all those things, because this is what happens. This is my thought on it, is you get all this stuff out of something, a piece of media like that, right? And when you're not with other people that you can share those things with, they have nowhere to go.
Right.
So you're just stuck there with all your thoughts on a matter, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to turn to the left and tell this person, oh, they're not interested. Oh, I'm going to turn to the right and tell this person, oh, they don't get it. Oh, okay, well, I'll just keep it to myself. And then you start going, well, why am I doing this at all? Why am I concerned with this? Why does this even matter? Maybe I should stop.
Yeah. Well, some of them just go right into the fantasy and they never leave. Right? Like,
I'd rather be there. I'd rather be in my, abstract world of how I interpreted this, and then just ignore anyone else's opinions on this, because no one else's opinion is gonna be hitting those points. Like, or view, and then they start, and then you start getting into weird, like, schizoid sort of defense mechanism, elitism, and shit like that. It gets complicated and very interesting all at once.
I'm eating a sandwich.
Enjoy your sandwich.
Whoa.
Sandwich good. I eat. Ein said, I didn't really feel like it was a good movie or a bad movie at all, just running random information, processing it. Oh, okay, well, that's fine too. Like, it's just funny, man. Like, I don't need anybody. Like, what baffles me is when I ask somebody, like, I stopped asking people why they like things. Like, because I would always get unsatisfactory responses. And I would get frustrated. I used to get frustrated at that. Because I'd be like, oh yeah, you liked it? But why? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, but what about this? What do you think of that? I'm curious how you interpreted this. Interpreted what? This thing. What am I going to do with that? It was good. But why? And then they can't give you an answer, and you're just like, fuck. Why am I more concerned with the whys of their thinking than they themselves? Oh man, that's probably one of the most frustrating parts. Is you're more concerned with the whys of their own thinking. That's not even you, and you're more concerned with their whys because you want to get something out of their whys and their answers, but they're not digging up any answers. They don't care. It's not interesting. They don't need to know why they liked something. And you're sitting there going, but I want to know why. But there's nothing there. There might not be necessarily something there that they can give you.
It feels like talking to a robot.
Sort of. But I don't know. I don't want to say a robot because the people feel like that's how it is to talk to many of us. Because of, a lot of people think we sound, or I don't know. That's just interesting.
I wonder why that is. Well, I think it's just because of no shared value structure.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Because if there's no value structure that's shared, then what they're talking about has no emotional value for you, and what you're talking about has no emotional value for them. And when we say someone's a robot, what it really means is that we're not feeling anything from what they're saying.
Yeah, that's all that means. No shared value system.
Should we do more Reddit questions?
What happened? Oh yeah, sure. Might as well.
Okay.
Now I will. Now that like we haven't even done. We did like one question at the beginning, and then it turned into like a fucking 1 hour of something completely unassociated to the Reddit question. I love it. The only thing we did was the okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna read this one. Can you live a life without any close relationships? By Primate of God. Everyone in my life, my friends, my family, any acquaintances I've gathered up down the road, none of them have ever took my emotions or opinions seriously. On top of that, I'm very misunderstood because of my lack of social skills. People think I'm unintelligent and stupid. I can tell by the way people talk to me. I've always felt underappreciated. I've lost all my friends. I've never had a girlfriend. I've chosen to distance myself from my family, and I'm honestly too shy around strangers to meet anybody new, especially since my personality is so far estranged.
Oh, Jesus.
Can I still be happy? Do I have to have people in my life? I do find great peace and happiness when I'm by myself, but when I see other people together and having fun, laughing, holding hands, smiling, and then I start to feel like I'm missing out on something. I know I don't have the energy for that kind of rich kind of socializing. I really don't think I could ever have that much joy with other people. Why do I feel empty when I see other people being joyous with others, when deep inside I can't even connect with people? Sometimes I feel like the world has failed me and I'm mad at the world. Other times I'm able to hold my head up high and be indifferent about the world. Is it possible to live a loveless life and overcome this emptiness? I have nothing going for me either. My only hobbies are writing, drawing, neither of which I'm likely to excel at. I flunked out of high school because of depression. I was teacher's least favorite, so my job choices are limited to the kinds of jobs you would only work to survive, not enjoy. So unless I crap out some great works of literature, I can't even look to a career to enhance my happiness either. All right, that's an easy one right there for me, at least. Which is right here. I think it's showing right on the screen. Yeah, this right here. Where is it? There we go. Okay, this paragraph right here. Can I still be happy? Do I have to have people in my life? I do find great peace and happiness all by myself. Blah 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 blah. And this kind of resentment for other people that are laughing, holding hands, and smiling, and you feel like, okay. So when I see that, I just think you also want to be laughing, having fun, and holding hands and smiling. Right. The only difference is that you don't want to do it with those people.
Right.
And because you don't have a shared value system like you've always described, you don't have a shared understanding, a shared cognitive experience of any kind. And like even if it doesn't even require the same experience technically, it just makes it a little easier probably to connect with that person. But just someone that will try and understand you and care about you and actually interpret and expend the energy to attempt to know you, and regardless of how different you are to them, and then you feeling incentivized to do the same for them. That's what could lead to you enjoying things like having fun, laughing, holding hands, and smiling.
I have to add something to this because
we're
stepping into dangerous territory in the sense of we have to be careful not to provide a basis for the assumption that it's other people's responsibility, right, to bring us out.
No, it's definitely not.
Right,
no, definitely not.
So, and
did I imply that?
No, but it's so you're telling one side of it. That's really important, and then we have to do the other part too, right? Which is that, yes, in an ideal world, right, someone would understand that you have cognitive differences, and they would be open to understanding and listening and connecting.
Yes.
Right? That's an ideal world, of course.
Yeah.
If that ideal world does come about someday, but you've spent so much time in the hole that all of your
all the opportunities will be
and
missed.
Skills, right, for connecting have been degraded and diminished, right? If you haven't built those neural pathways, right, you're fucked because you're going to ruin it, right?
Yeah. Right? It's not even going to be the external that ruins it. It's going to be you, because that opportunity is going to pass you right by. There's like a good example, in my opinion, would be like, and I'm not trying to boast about our little fucking Zoe community or whatever, but that's one thing. Like, it'd be the equivalent of somebody seeing this thing we're trying to build, and then instead of going, okay, let me give it a shot, they just go, that's stupid, we can't do that.
Oh yeah, because they
can't
associate the negative symptoms.
We can't do that. We can't make friends. We can't.
We wouldn't even be Zoids if we could.
Yeah, like I wouldn't. Yeah. It would be like, what? We can make friends. Then that means they're not schizoids if they're able to do that. Like, it's just fucking really bad thinking and so you get to a point where, oh yeah, okay, cool, you stop being open to anything, so you're just gonna roll around in your own filth, and that's about it. Like, but you're right too. You can't put it all on the external. It's also the internal too. They need to make the effort. They need to stop saying, this is like the thing right here. They need to stop saying, because it isn't true. And it sucks because a lot of I I'm just starting to believe this is just not true. This idea of those things that you're seeing are not things you want in any capacity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's absurd.
Or this, I really don't think I could ever have that much joy with other people. That right there is, yes, you could. You absolutely could. It's just the right people and the right conditions. And because you're a schizoid, it's going to be more difficult. It's going to be harder. It's going to require more effort on your part. But you know what? It's hilarious. This is what's so fucking funny to me, is that the amount of effort and energy expenditure that would require you to attempt this right here and find the right context and place and situation for it would still be far less than continuing down the road of trying to connect and failing with normal people all the time. Like that right there is more difficult and more energy, like just or keeping yourself isolated as well is part. It is probably more, or avoidance as a whole is probably spending more energy and hurting you physically and mentally than anything where you do any kind of heartbreak or hardship that may come from attempting this.
The longer you stay isolated, the closer you get to psychosis.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
From personal experience, I can attest to that. Your body just starts to shut down. It really does. It just starts to go. There's no meaning or value or structure or community in this space. There's nothing for me to do. It's like something ancient in you just starts to die. It starts to go to sleep. Your appetite goes away. Everything starts to go away. Right? You start to just not move. You become catatonic. And the more you're isolated, the worse and worse it gets, until people get to a point where they go, I just don't want to live anymore, right? And that choice of I just don't want to live anymore is a preponderance of all of those things. It's like the fact that their body, because they have no appetite, is screaming in pain from not getting the nutrients that it needs. They're probably not drinking enough. They're not eating enough. They're not moving. They're not interacting. They're getting none of the hierarchy of needs are being met, right? And this is the point where people just fall out of society, where you're just done, right?
Yeah, you either become, unfortunately, homeless and wandering the streets, or end up in a facility, or die.
Back to something we were talking about earlier, which is important, because so there's a certain level of personal responsibility, whatever that is, in terms of cultivating the capacity to connect once the opportunity arises. But another angle on that is that while it's your responsibility to take the opportunities that present themselves in terms of learning those capacities, it's also not your fault that you don't have them, because you were set up to not have them, right? In the sense that your environment was structured in such a way. So it's nobody's fault, right? Like when I was little, it was never my fault that my oxytocin system was just not online. Right? It wasn't my fault. My environment was perfectly designed to not allow my oxytocin system to be online, right? And I needed intense psychotropic influence and experimentation, in clinical settings in order to activate that system, which hadn't been activated before. So that's all. Yeah.
No, and what's interesting, I mean, it's a funny metaphor, but it's like thinking about somebody without legs going, I refuse to learn how to use a wheelchair.
Right.
Like, it's like, I need to get around. What should I do? Learn to use this wheelchair. I refuse. I will not degrade myself to the use of a wheelchair.
No.
I'm gonna just lay here and flop around like a fucking what's that goddamn Pokemon?
Well, I mean,
Magikarp.
that makes sense in the context. If the context is that the person has been told their entire life that it's their fault that they don't have legs.
No, absolutely. That's a different situation.
But that's the situation.
Then they might not. Then they might not use a wheelchair because they feel guilt for attempting to improve upon themselves in any
exactly. Well, but that's the situation that most of us are in.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of us almost feel guilty to try to improve our situation for different reasons. Ein said something that's important. They said, I'm not sure they're implying hostility. I'm not saying that they're implying hostility. If you're referring, Oh, I think they were referring to this right here where I said I really don't think I could ever have that much joy with other people. Yeah, they're not. If that's what you're
They're not
applying
implying
to,
hostility.
no, they're not implying hostility. What they're doing is, and what I'm criticizing is, if we want to call it that, or what I'm advocating against is this idea of falling into these traps of thinking that you are so damaged or you are so incapable, or something in you is just so disconnected and so just far gone that you can never actually enjoy these things in any form, in any way. Like, how do you even know that? Like, all you've experienced is shellfish, right? That's all you've eaten. You keep eating shellfish. That's all you keep getting given, right? Kind of like we were talking about before. And you keep breaking out and feeling like shit. And it's because you never had your veggies, which are over somewhere else.
Another part is like, okay, so let's do shellfish versus lobster, right?
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
So let's say you're given shellfish and you have to learn how to eat shellfish. It's not that simple. You have to like open the thing and like you have to clean it. Like, let's go through the whole process here, right? Let's say you're fishing. So if you only ever learn how to eat shellfish, then you're really good at eating shellfish, but you're really horrible at eating lobster. You wouldn't know what to do with a lobster if you found one. You really want to eat a lobster because you see other people eating it and they seem like they're having a good time, but you wouldn't know what to do with yourself if you got a lobster, right?
Yeah.
So you can't expect the lobster to come along and then you can't expect yourself to be able to handle it, right? Like, Of course you couldn't. You have to practice before you're able to actually eat the lobster, because you have to learn the cleaning procedures.
That's funny, man. And so that actually does connect, because one of the things that's really scary. Hold on. Ein said, "I'm not advocating for learned helplessness, but as far as I've seen, there is no scientific reason to believe that the schizoid condition improves with making effort to socialize and so on." What are you talking about? I'm doing it all the time.
Yeah, we're doing it right now.
I'm
doing it right now.
This guy right here, this autistic schizoid, and me are doing it. I've been doing it for the last few months. Like, where I'm at right now and where I was 6 months ago with this stuff is night and day. The people on my server, a ton of them already have had like significant changes in their lives and in their sense of self. And in this idea that maybe they can accomplish these things. The only reason there's no scientific reason is because there's no research on this. No one's actually tried to figure this stuff out.
Well, the analogy is really important to grasp, because back to this idea of there being something beneath the negative symptoms, right? If there's this personality profile, and if you had people interacting with each other from day one, right, then you wouldn't see this pathology. If you have two individuals who have developed through these different systems but have the same underlying profile, and the systems that they've developed in have suppressed their oxytocin capacity, right? You have to. It's like a muscle. You have to practice it, otherwise it's not going to work, right? People don't start off like with, oh, I have deep love and understanding and appreciation for all beings, and I'm 2 years old. That's not how it works, right? Things have to develop over time, right? Yeah. I just pop out instantly, I'm a Buddhist. Like, no, it doesn't work that way, right? Instantly, I'm Jesus. Like, no, nobody's instantly Jesus. So if you have those two individuals and they have no practice, even if when they do encounter each other, right, and they do experience a form of connection which they didn't think was possible, or a form of efficient fluid communication which they didn't think was possible, their stunted oxytocin systems are struggling to catch up, right? And that struggling will possibly make the interaction impossible, or create a misunderstanding, or one of them is more developed than the other one and it's too much and he retreats, right? So that's what I mean when I say it has to be practiced, right? What I'm not saying, and I want to be clear about this, I'm not saying that there's anything that we can do to have these kinds of relationships with neurotypicals, right?
And I'm not saying that as well, but I'm also saying that that is definitely also not an impossibility, it's just an improbability, because in my case, I managed to do so. I'm assuming that my wife's pretty neurotypical, but my point is that's something that you can do, but it's more difficult. It requires a whole different. Like, I would say I did it in reverse. Like, and this is what I've said in a previous stream, that I've done it in reverse. That I learned how to connect with a neurotypical person and my kids and everything before I even learned to connect with like people that are like me. Like, I learned to a degree. I'm not great at it, but what I'm saying is that, and what's hilarious is that my experimenting and connecting with other people, like neurodivergent people like or cluster A people like myself, has actually strengthened my bond with my wife and kids. It's actually strengthened it. And I find that really interesting, because now, maybe because there's a part of myself, a gap that is being filled, that I can now kind of sort of translate into my everyday life and feel more joyous when I'm around my kids and my wife. And
sorry.
No, go for it.
There's a certain part of the schizoid diagnosis which is about the kinds of relationships which they typically do have. Which are close family relations or like childhood friends, like one or two, maybe, right? And the question is, why that one, but nobody else, right? It's not a question of that one, definitely that one, right? And the answer is that there was enough of a motivation for both parties based on the circumstances of their birth and relationship to actually put in the effort to understand each other, right? So these are individuals where only one individual really gets them at all, to any degree, right? And it's just because, well, when you're encountering strangers, there isn't the same kind of push to understand as there is if it's a family member, right? So the idea that this is impossible, it's clearly not impossible, right? Because we're observing it all the time. It's just a question of how.
Correct. Hey Nanoma, what's up?
Hey, not much.
Did you have something to chime in on? I'd love to hear it.
No, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I just hopped in here.
Classic Nanoma, love it. Oh man, we've been talking for like the last 2 hours about all kinds of fucking heavy schizoid shit. Having to do with all I couldn't even begin to. What subject are we on at the moment? I couldn't even. I couldn't even tell you. Actually, I know what subject we're on, and
we got a new post. We got a new post from Dylan.
Okay, I'll check it right now. Hold on. It's this idea of not learned helplessness, but individuals failing so often in neurotypical sort of environments that they think they're incapable or dislike the things associated to that social type of socialization. So because they see neurotypicals do things like hug and kiss and hold hands and interact with each other in certain ways in which they show affection, they oftentimes associate the affection actions themselves as being something that they're not interested in doing or something that they're incapable of enjoying. When in fact it isn't the case. The truth is that they are able to do those things. They just need the right context and people and environment and situation in order to be able to do those things. But people get themselves in these traps, these holes in which they perpetuate these negative ideas about their experiences. But anyway, Dylan, I think I'm oxytocin deficient. I don't remember ever getting that hit from family. I found one person that I did get that hit, looking at their face being touched by them in the past. Well, there you go.
That shows the capacity's there. That's all it has to be is expanded upon, right?
Yep, we are all capable of it.
Well, hold on. Point. We're not all.
Okay, fine. Not all capable of it. Okay.
No,
take it back. Take it back.
Hardcore Machiavellian psychopaths who are oxytocin switches.
Okay, yes. Okay, I'm talking about like if we're talking about schizoids. Properly diagnosed actual schizoids. Yes, I think they are very much capable of achieving. Unless they're psychopaths.
Unless you're a psychopath and a schizoid at the same time.
Yeah.
In this case,
Okay.
probably
Well,
not.
in which case, probably not. No. Okay. Yes. There.
But only if you're a factor. Only if you're a factor 1 psychopath. If you're a factor 2 psychopath, god damn, that's a difficult pathology.
This is
but
you being
it can probably
autistic
be
now.
helped.
Now you're being autistic.
Sorry.
I think they get what I'm trying to say. I think they could abstract enough to where they know I'm not implying every person ever in the history of man.
True.
That's had these issues, but yes,
more than you would expect.
Much more than you would expect. I think amongst schizoids, they are capable of learning that it's not that you can't enjoy those things or aren't interested in those things. It's that you're not interested in doing them in the context in which you inhabit, or in the environment in which you inhabit, because it starts changing significantly. And you know what that's about, right? Nanomo too. Like it changes everything. It changes like the context, your environment. I love this is what it's the best.
Like, what's happening?
Yeah, I know, I love it. It's the best. It's but anyway, the context of the situation changes your ability to enjoy things that you previously thought impossible to enjoy. Like the environment just changing. Like, I mean, let me ask you here. It's just because so we can discuss it. No, at some point in your life, would you say that you thought to yourself, like maybe a year ago or something, you thought to yourself, I am incapable of connecting to others in any way that makes me want to do the things that other people seem to like to do with others that they connect to. And maybe I'm unable to do those things. Maybe I'm unable to participate in those things, or maybe something in me doesn't like them or is indifferent to those things, those actions of affection between people. Did you ever think that about yourself?
Oh yeah.
Right? All the time. Same here. Like, you probably thought to yourself all the time, like, why do people always hold each other's hands and smile and hug and care about one another and say nice things to each other and laugh and giggle? Like, all those things, I don't understand them. They're so boring, or they're so this, or they don't make sense to me, or maybe I'm just not capable. What's wrong with me that I can't do those things, or I can't enjoy those things like they do?
I understood like why and how they're enjoyable and such, but I just saw it as an impossibility for myself because I just couldn't connect to anyone. But times change, so don't lose hope out there. Maybe you'll get to hold someone's hand one day.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, both figuratively and literally. And it's important. It's of great value, and that's what's funny. That's what's framing my my goal structure for this, is that those ideas alone, and it keeps developing. It keeps pushing me toward these directions of wanting to develop a system of some kind that is like not a system, but an environment or conditions to improve conditions for people like myself, like Nanomo, like Burb, everybody else. Improve those conditions so that we can find a way to do things that we think we can't do. Give us that wheelchair that we need. So because what's interesting is this too, is it's not just, oh look, you're incapacitated, and so the best you can accomplish is what other people can do intuitively. No. What's amazing, and this is kind of I know a little out there, but what's amazing is that if the schizoid accomplishes this thing, right? If they accomplish those goals, those kind of feelings that and needs, they start meeting their needs, and discover that they can meet those needs, and that it's not impossible, then all of a sudden you're a person that has this like big cluster of like either talents, knowledge, understanding, metacognition, abstract thinking. Maybe you can learn how to go between the abstract and the concretization, like I do a little more often, and like you can get these skills and things that you developed out of sheer adaptation, and then use them and implement them in a productive way. Adaptation. Did you have to correct me?
Autism.
You piece of shit. Anyway. Yes, adaptation. Fuck, I'm tired. Leave me alone. But what if you can become a more whole person? And what kind of person is that going to be? That's going to be it's going to be you, and it's going to be a person that's can produce a lot for the world around them. Like you can find something that makes you feel whole and also be productive member of, the society that you once couldn't even take part in. And feel good about it. Maybe not necessarily because you crave to be a part of society, but because you crave to just have certain needs met that you don't understand how to meet, and so on. So I think this is a good spot to end the stream, honestly, because it's already gone for like 2 hours and change, and I think we got to a good place. Nanoma, would you like to add any thoughts to what I just said right now? Like any personal thoughts?
Just that it's definitely possible. I mean, if there's any long-time viewers that watched from around the beginning of when Angst started streaming and I hopped on there, you can just hear it in my voice and stuff that I was completely dead. And things changed for me. I found people to connect with, and especially this one person, and and I know that now.
All right, Burb. Go ahead. Sorry, I thought I did the thing where I thought you were done. To know. I'm sorry. You know the thing. You know the thing where you get quiet, and I thought it was so what. Go ahead.
I was pretty much done.
Okay.
You can make connections. It may take some time. Yeah, you definitely can. The ability, it's in there.
Ironic that you say that you can make connections, and then like your connection starts getting shitty, and you sounded robotic.
It's synchronic.
I know shit's funny. It's like you can make connections.
Shitty internet.
Connections are possible. It's like it's all like fucking roboting out and shit. Anyway, Burb, this is your opening for getting mushy autism out. So get your mushiness out if you want to. Do it, bit. Yeah, do it. What mushiness?
Do what?
What mushiness do you have to put forward about the goodness of all this? I just wanted to put you in an awkward position. That says it all. You don't have to say a single word after that verb.
Friend good.
Friend good. Friend good. Yes, friend good.
Make friend good.
Make friend good. Yes.
Feel nice.
No, do you agree? Make friend good?
Yep, make friend good.
Make friend good. Okay. So anybody that enjoys the streams or is watching, if you'd like to support this whole project, this whole thing I'm trying to do, build up. I know it's a mess, but I'm a mess. Please support me on Patreon. Please support me on PayPal. Please, I have a PayPal pool that I posted somewhere that I got to repost. If you could repost it for me somewhere, and then I'm like on my Angst News again, that'd be great. I think I pinned it. I'm not sure. I don't even know. I'm tired. I'm trying to raise a little money so I can keep this going. As you guys well know, like certain types of money are going to stop coming in, at least according to what the news is saying. And yeah, it's difficult finding a work when you have a lot of other issues that I haven't really deeply gotten into because I don't like to be what's the word? Pity partying myself. As you all probably know, that fucking
playing the
sucks.
victim.
Yeah, I fucking hate playing the victim. So I don't really talk about, but there are circumstances that make certain types of things very, very difficult for me to find work. So any help is really, really cool and useful, and it'll help me keep this going. Because
give money
to me, you bitches. You poor sluts, give me your money.
You're like the Catholic Church asking for donations.
Yeah, no,
repentance of
yeah,
sins.
yeah. I will cleanse you of your schizoid sins. I will cleanse you of all your zoid sins if you give me money. Send money to me. Pray for Jesus.
Give money.
Give money. Because I really want to keep this going. Because This is all I've ever cared about. Like that's not like my wife and kids. Like I always say that, but like for real.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck about my wife and kids. Stick a
No,
fuck
no.
off.
Yeah. Burb doesn't care about his wife and kids.
Yeah, my non-existent wife and kids.
Yeah, fuck them. You don't know.
Yeah, fuck
If
those people that don't exist.
if they exist on a different timeline where Burb has a wife and kids, he hates those.
Yeah, I hate them. Hate them.
Oh,
I don't hate anyone. Actually.
Okay. Shut up. You hate yourself.
Sorry, I do. You're right.
Yeah. See, you can't say no one.
Yeah.
All right. Aw, I don't hate you.
Oh, I know.
Okay, guys. Thanks for joining me, and please support where you can. And if you haven't joined the server on Discord, please do so. I want to extend stuff past the server eventually. Like, the server, I want it to be like the base, but like I want to be able to spread this out to different avenues and stuff. And
Schizoid McDonald's franchise.
I want to franchise a Schizo McDonald's so we could sell burgers with gray bread and gray patties.
Schizoid burgers.
Zoid
burgers.
No, Zoidberg. No, Zoidbergs.
Zoidbergers.
No, just Zoidbergs. But yeah,
Zoidberg.
What about chicken nuggies?
Oh, the chicken nuggets.
What about chicken?
Yeah, we established that Songbird doesn't get why people like chicken nuggets so much.
I've never eaten chicken
What?
nuggies. I've never had them before. I don't know if they're good.
All right,
try them.
I have to go. But that was a good stream.
I've never eaten a nugget.
There's knocking on my door because I have to go. I'm getting swatted. I'm kidding.
Okay.